Greetings, we are the Ministry of the Real Truth, and we are doing a follow-up video to the Real Truths about the Sabbaths according to the original, ancient, very old Lshana Ateeqa SuppraYah, language of God, spoken by God to Adam and Eve, and then to the men at the Tower of Babel, who spoke that one language until God confused them by giving them multiple languages and then scattered them. This is supposed to be, or supposedly, the original language that God spoke, not the Hebrew, even though there was the Hebrew Aramaic, there were sister languages. Okay, this is from the Tav Asherit, or Assyrian Aramaic, or Aramaic, the ancient, the original, the ancient, the very old Assyrian Aramaic or Aramaic, or the Tav Asherit, Asheri, which is the older sister language of the Tav Ivri, Hotep, or original ancient, very old Hebrew. And we are looking at world/chance.com and their claim on the luni-solar calendar compared to the Roman Catholic solar calendar. Okay, luni-solar being the moon and the sun, and the solar just being simply the cycle of the sun. We would play this video here from this website, but it's a YouTube video, as you can see here. It's on YouTube, so we'll leave the link below this video so you can go watch it in your own time, because we don't want a copy strike or copyright claim, etc. Right? We try to keep a clean record, no copy strikes, infringements, etc. But basically, what they're saying at World's Last Chance, who are breakaway from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, who then have a breakaway from them, who don't agree with what they claim in regards to the lunar solar calendar, etc. They're basically saying this day here, the first of the month, is a new moon day. Yeah, it's not specifically, as they say, pointing to a named month. It's just 30 days and then a new month, and then 30 days and a new month. It works like that. Yeah, but they've put it into order, yeah, and they've used, say, the Hebrew month names like Abib, etc., etc., and they're comparing it with today's modern calendar or the Gregorian calendar, which has its roots in the, or from the Roman Catholic Church. So what they're saying is this is a new moon day, the start of indication of a new month. So you look up in the night sky and you see this new moon, a full moon, right? So this day is not a Sabbath, but it was a day in the scriptures where the Levite priests, or the priests, would take an unblemished goat or ram, and sacrifice it, and then sprinkle the blood, possibly on the people, the house of Israel, so all their sins for that month would be forgiven. These Sabbaths that followed were given by God through Moses to them, that they should honour it, make a memorial of that memorial to the end of time. It's like a covenant between them and Almighty God. They had to follow it. Okay, so that's why Jews follow it today, whether on the correct day or the incorrect day. Yeah. They're bound by it according to scriptures. So that's a new moon day. It's not a Sabbath. And then you work 6 days. Okay. And here's a preparation day. This is when you cook all your meals, clean your house, have your political conversations, whatever, etc., etc. And when the sun sets, that's the indication of the start of the Sabbath. Okay, they're using the modern day calendar to verify it. Okay, because the Seventh Day Adventists say, oh, it's every Saturday of the month. Yeah, that's the Sabbath. And then Christians say, oh no, the Sabbath was nailed to the cross when Christ was crucified, etc., etc. So it doesn't apply anymore. And the new day is Sunday. You worship on Sunday. Sunday, the day of the sun. Yeah, it's all going back to the Roman Catholic Church. Okay? So here, World Last Chance is saying these are the Sabbaths according to the Scriptures for every 30 days or a new month. The 8th, the 15th, the 22nd and the 29th. And apparently the Hebrew months only had 29 days, but there was an additional 30th day, because on the 29th day, or night time, but you should look up in the sky and you'll see a crescent moon, which indicates there should be following in the new month a full moon up in the sky, right? Up in the night sky. But if you don't see it, they've allocated an extra day, hopefully that you're, or night, day and night, and then you look up in the night sky and you'd see it. Okay, which is an indicator of the new month, start of a new month. Okay, so this is what they're saying. Those Sabbaths are on the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd and 29th. Whereas their offshoot, their breakaway, that argues that they're wrong, say, no, that's wrong. The Sabbaths are 2nd, 9th, 16th, 23rd, something like that, right? Yeah. They've got, 9th, 16th, 23rd and 29th. 30th, something like that, right? Or, yeah. So, yeah, they're the breakaway, right? So, but this World's Last Chance say, no. Here it is here, according to Scripture. Okay. Underneath, we have put comments from the Brita of the original ancient very old Aramaic Lshana Ateeqa SuppraYah. That's the language of God that God spoke to Adam and Eve, to the men at the Tower of Babel, as indicated here, who spoke one language. Translated from the original ancient very old manuscripts copied faithfully by scribes and monks in Ur around 800 BCE by a native-born Aramaic speaker translated from Bet Narain, Mesopotamia, back to Alexander, Syria, with over 15 years experience in translating those scriptures. He has knowledge, or he can speak many dialects of the Aramaic. Perhaps can look at cuneiform text and translate that, etc., etc. Okay, and he translated them in the nearest English equivalent without adding his own bias, prejudice, twist or flavour to it, right? Because he found other translators had done that, like they didn't believe in the Trinity or the Triune, so they left that out, and so forth. All originate from the original ancient very old Tav Asheret, sister language of the original ancient very old Tav Ivri or Hotep, or the original ancient very old Hebrew. Yeah, that's what that is there. The Koine Greek is the nearest akin to this, right? Or the nearest or akin to these. So if you translated that original Koine Greek, which is probably a long dead language, old tongue, not used anymore, you'd find that it's the closest of all others to the original ancient Aramaic Hebrew. Okay. And here from Genesis it says, and God called the light day and the darkness night. This is from the Brita in the Aramaic, Genesis in the English, the original. And the evening and the morning became part of one cycle of the first eon. Okay, so all these Christians out there that are teaching, oh, God literally created everything in 6 days, 7 days, or 7 days, 6 days, and he rested on the 7th day. They're incorrect. Okay? Because here's the footnotes, and in the original language, this is Brita or Genesis 1.153, indicating that's the third footnote indication. Literal Aramaic word, euma, eon, immeasurable period, or unfathomable period, because we weren't there. No man was around to record it. When did God start? When did God finish? Okay. A guy called Casey claims all was created by God in 4000 BC or something like that. well, it couldn't be if the Egyptian mounds, the first prototypes of the Egyptian pyramids, were done like 2000 BCE. Okay, supposedly that's what he said. So that's incorrect. In our personal research of the original Exodus, we found and do agree with these people's lunar solar claims, right? But not that the days were days, but days as in line with their explanation videos of the Creator's calendar, and actually Hebrew days. You have covered this before in another video. We have 12 o'clock, midday, right? It goes 12:01. To us, in the Western Hemisphere, that's afternoon. But to these Hebrews, these Israelites that use the ancient Creator's calendar, or the Hebrew calendar, not this Gregorian one, Roman Catholic one, that would be like evening, right, or early evening, and then it would go to 3 o'clock, and after 3 o'clock it would be like mid-evening, and 3 to 6 it would be like early evening or something like that, and then it would go 6 to 9, it would be mid-evening or something, and then it would go to 9 to 12, and that would be evening, right? And then you would go 12 midnight to us, right? It's 12 midnight, 12:01 is early morning, right? But they have a different interpretation of that, the Hebrews, the Israelites, etc. So it wouldn't be yeah, you have to look at these videos. We don't want to get you confused, because sometimes it confuses us, but it's a completely different concept to the days that we understand in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, to them, yeah, we'd probably say early morning, whereas they could probably say, they'd probably say something like early day, or yeah, something like that, you know. That's, yes, that's slightly different. But go do your research through these world last chance. We don't want to put you wrong. Yeah, it's kind of a head twister. That's why we get confused with it quite a bit. So we'd need the actual statements in written form or verbal form, audio form, from these particular people. Okay. Yeah, it's extremely different to our modern understanding of what a Hebrew day actually consisted of. The preparation day, a day before the Sabbath, the Israelites gathered the manna, but were warned not to gather it on the Sabbath day because they were in the desert, the Sign in the Aramaic, or the Sinai in the Hebrew or the English, right? And they were moaning and whinging to Moses, oh, you brought us, freed us, brought us all the way out here to the middle of the desert to die of hunger and thirst. Oh my gosh, so God provides them with the heavenly manna, right? And they can gather as much as they like, eat as much as they like on that preparation day, and then eat it on the Sabbath, but they couldn't go out and gather it on that Sabbath, that holy day, that day of rest, because it would have been rotten, mouldy, had bugs in it, all that sort of stuff. But some did. Okay, they didn't listen. Okay, so this person here talks about what they believe it is, and another one, right? And WLC replies. Okay. So we probably have another comment here somewhere, and this person here adds it all up. Yeah. Genesis 7, 5 months, 150 days, but LSC has 29, it should be WLC, right? Supposedly. They add it up and then they give their opinion on it. Okay. Oh, okay, it's a response to this particular lady. Yeah, and so forth. And there's more questions and more responses, or more comments and more responses. Okay. So we are going to look at what the original ancient Aramaic actually says. Just of note, this is what the translator Victor E. Alexander had written on his website, which has been down since about 2018 or something like that, and we found a way to resurrect it. Okay, all the information is here. It's quite a lot of information, saying that the original language was the Eastern Aramaic, or the original Aramaic. And translation notes: when the Roman Church established its authority in the West, it abandoned the Eastern scriptures that were recorded by the apostles in the ancient Aramaic language from the start, when the Roman Emperor Constantine ordered the expulsion of the ancient Church of the East from Asia Minor. He ordered them to be ousted out, right? The Western scriptures were wrongly drawn from the Greek Septuagint, the LXX, Old Testament, and the Greek original translations of the New Testament. This is all coming from the Roman Catholic, Alexandrian, etc., right? This is how the Western churches abandoned the apostolic faith, that original apostolic age faith of the disciples, etc. Only the Eastern churches and Orthodox churches retained some of the original apostolic doctrines. Origins of the language of the scriptures. There are some people that think Greek is the language of the New Testament. There is a huge amount of information on the internet on the subject. Victor Alexander was trying to deal with this issue through the Aramaic videos and audio files that he posted up on his website. Okay, we can't reveal those to you, those videos, but the audio we can, because it used Adobe Flash Player, and that's no more. Every other add-on that we've tried is just total rubbish. It does not work. Yeah, only for the games online, right? The Adobe Flash games, etc. By explaining the Lord's Prayer word for word, he's trying to awaken the readers to consider the actual teachings of Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus Messiah, and so forth. Okay. Evangelion comes from the Aramaic word meaning he reveals, ha'ogalion. In Greek it has been transliterated as, this is Greek there, and pronounced as Evangelion. This word has also been translated into Latin and all the Western languages as Evangelion, with the explanation that it means good news. But in the original ancient Aramaic, it really means he reveals. That is Maya, or Lord God, Master God, reveals. How can someone preach about the faith in Maran Yeshua Mashiach, Jesus the Messiah, Lord Jesus the Messiah, when they do not know the truth or the basis for the scriptures as preached by Maran Yeshua Mashiach, or Jesus the Messiah himself, right? So that's a little bit of information there. Joshua, or Jesus, spoke about the men of Nineveh in Matthew chapter 12, verses 39 to 41. Jonah was sent there by the Lord to preach to the Ninevites. They converted to the true faith 1,000 years before his coming, and they were spared. So what Victor Alexander has translated is that Ninevite Aramaic. He's not using the Syriac, the modern Syriac, as many claim, and many claim they know it better than him. Or he says it this way, so he's wrong. I know it. I went through Sunday school or whatever. I got the qualifications at the Institute, so I know better than him. A fluent, a native speaker of that particular language. Okay? And so forth. Okay, and here's his testimony here, that these were translated from the original language of the scriptures. He's a native Aramaic speaking translator. Ancient Aramaic is the oldest form of the language. This is the language Yeshua, or Jesus the Messiah, spoke 2,000 years ago, the language of ancient Mesopotamia and the Jewish people, the ancient Aramaic. This is the language that modern day theologians refer to as Aramaic. Victor Alexander, the translator, simply identified this language more clearly than the American churches and the Western translators of the Bible. It is wrong to call this language merely Aramaic. Aramaic is a modern language, or derivative, like modern Hebrew. So today you've got modern Hebrew, okay, Arabic, Persian, etc. Most languages of the Middle East and the rest of the world, in fact, have evolved. They've evolved over time, right? They've made subtle changes, or subtle changes have been made from this first language, or this original language, which is long dead. Nobody uses it. The first ever spoken on earth. Therefore, the language of the scriptures should be identified as ancient. Yeah, very old Aramaic. So that identifies it. It shows the difference between the original old versus the modern derivative vernaculars, right? Of Syriac, Aramaic, Syriac, Galilean Aramaic, and Hebrew and Greek. It is necessary to call it ancient, otherwise everyone can deny that the scriptures were originated in this language, the language that the creator of the universe and his son spoke. This is the only language of Adam, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses and David. It has gone through the thousands of years of evolution. The ancient Aramaic language of the scriptures is no longer a spoken language, and the last time it was used as a literary language was in 1300 AD. Today, the ancient Aramaic remains only as a liturgical language. There are a number of Eastern churches that still use this language in their liturgy. In order for the people of the world to start learning about the scriptures' truth, everyone must come to understand that the Bibles being disseminated today are mostly translated from the English language versions, or they are conformed to the Protestant and Catholic Bibles from various languages. This translation, therefore, is the only one that has been made from the original, ancient, very old Aramaic scriptures. Okay, the Syrian Aramaic, the Aramaic, Lshana Ateeqa SuppraYah, Tav Ashret, etc., without prejudice, and it was made available on this particular website when it was up. Okay, so there is his testimony there. Okay. So again, we're not stressing that it's superior. Okay, in a sense it is, because it's hidden and preserved in the ancient Church of the East. It was intact. They had no reason to translate it into English or into any other language like Greek, Latin, etc., etc., because they spoke that language through their liturgy. They read it through their liturgy. Okay? A modern vernacular, perhaps, or Syriac, to the people who both spoke that language and understood it fully. Okay? And it was proven, verified, testified, intact, through a statement posted up by Andrew Gabriel Roth, Messianic Andrew Gabriel Roth, on his website, thearamacscriptures.com, but he, for some reason, took it down, where a head patriarch, Esau Shimon, 1957, actually stated that they remained intact from the very day that they were given by the blessed hands of the disciple Thomas to the high priest of the Church of the East, who then hid it, therefore preserving it from the Roman Catholics and Islam. It was intact. Nobody messed with it. Okay, they had no need to mess with it, but they probably had to read it in a modern vernacular because that old language died out. Okay, nobody spoke that anymore. Well, there's probably a few people, old people, that spoke it, but they don't know English, so they couldn't translate it to if they had to. They couldn't speak the language, so they couldn't translate it for you. But most of them supposedly died off in World War I or World War II, and they just don't speak it these days, apparently. Okay, so we're going to look at the Sabbaths using those original ancient, very old scriptures from the original language. Okay, this is Exodus, from those original manuscripts, those scriptures, right? And we've covered this, and it's about Moses and how he runs away from the Egyptians because he killed and he buried and was discovered to have done this. He murdered the overseer that was beating a man or something like that. Right? So he runs into the desert and he ends up meeting the household, people from the household of Levi, and he marries one of the daughters. She has a son. Okay. Go back there. It's not about Moses. Okay. It's about the house of Israel being in Egypt and being slaves to the Egyptians, etc., etc., right? And then someone from the household of Levi, okay, married a daughter, one of the daughters of Levi. This is meaning not meaning, okay, there's a man called Levi, okay, so he married one of the daughters of Levi, okay. A man from the house of Levi went and consecrated for himself one of the daughters of Levi, of that household, right? Okay. Because all basically related, okay. So it's not necessarily saying, oh yeah, he's committed incest. It's not saying that at all, okay. There could be a distant relation or a man associated with that house of Levi, right? And she became pregnant and gave birth to a son that goes on about Moses, and hid him in the river, all that sort of stuff. A lot of people can compare it to the story of Sargon 1, etc., etc., and then to some other later pagan religion story, and so forth, so forth, so forth. You know, the list goes on. Goes on about Moses. Okay, and he runs away. Eventually runs away after he kills that Egyptian. Okay, so he's looking after the herds of Jethro, who came across, right? Considered his king priest, and he fetched some sheep for the altar because it was a sacrifice, right? And he came to the mountain of God at Karif, and there appeared to him the angel of the Lord, etc., etc. Not in a burning bush, but on a sun disk, flying, flaming sun disk. And God says blah 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 to him. So he tells him to go to the house of Israel, that are slaves in Egypt, and tell the Pharaoh, or the king of Egypt, to let the people go, right? Let my people go, and all that sort of stuff. And he says, oh, but, you know. And God says, Moses says to God, oh, what's your name, you know? What should I say to him? So he tells him, Ahiya, Ahiya, we already covered this. Okay, that's what you'll tell the children of Israel. Ahiya has sent me over to you, not Yahweh, not Yahuwahi Wahi or woo woo woo, or that sort of rubbish that people have invented, right? Saying it's in the Hebrew. Okay, we've verified through a professional with 2 doctorates that that's all rubbish. Okay. And God said to Moses again, that's what you should tell the children of Israel. His God, or his ancestors, etc., etc., sent him, right? And that's his name to the end of the universe, and this is how you should commemorate me from the century to the end of all centuries, by using that name. Okay. This is his name. And his explanation down here in the footnotes. We already covered all this. Okay. So he goes and he does that. He's still arguing with God, so God says, well, I'll get Aaron, your brother, you'll meet him, and then he'll go for you to Egypt, and he'll be the voice speak, and you just like do the magic, right? Throw the stick on the ground and it turns into a snake or python or whatever, right? Okay, so that's that. We're going to go to 9:12, where they're actually in front of the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Okay, and all these supposed plagues, 10 plagues, that were put upon the Egyptians because the Pharaoh refused to let them go. Okay, we're looking for a certain suggestion he made to them. Okay, that they had to take an unblemished lamb, sacrifice it, and put the blood on the doors of their houses, so the shadow of death would go past them and kill off the Egyptian oldest sons and all